Hi, my name is Jason, also known as Zorn on the Fantasy Grounds forums. This is the first video in a three-part series covering how to play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons over the Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop. At the time of this recording, the current live version is 3.0.9. While this tutorial series is aimed at showcasing 5e D&D, most of what you'll learn by watching these videos is universal with respect to the capabilities of this software. One of the powerful features of Fantasy Grounds you may have heard about are library modules. As there are currently no licensed modules for 5e yet, if you want to use these, you have to make them yourself. Although it has never been easier to make your own modules using the parse utility, I do not use modules at all in this video series, as they are not a requirement for an amazing Fantasy Grounds experience. With all the disclaimers out of the way, let's dive right into our Player Quickstart. As we get started with this rundown of using Fantasy Grounds, I'm going to assume the viewer has at least looked over the basic guide section of the Fantasy Grounds wiki site, specifically the Getting Started and Tabletop sections. If you haven't looked at these yet, I recommend at least skimming over them after watching this. It only takes a few minutes. The Getting Started section covers the launch screen, supported game systems, and common terms and abbreviations, while the Tabletop section covers the basics of Fantasy Grounds, the character list, chat window and chat commands, the dice and modifier stack, and finally hotkeys. The first thing we need to do as a player is join a game. From the initial launch screen, you're just going to click Join Game and choose a username, which is what will be displayed whenever we're using out-of-character chat. Then we'll enter a host address, which can either be the IP address of the host, or more often, the server alias, which is provided by the host. That will be 4 simple words that Fantasy Grounds servers have associated with the host's IP address. Now, because I'm going to be joining a game that I'm hosting on the same machine for this tutorial, I'm just going to put localhost, which allows me to connect to the same game, even though this means I'll be using a duplicate license. Now just click Start, and we'll see you on the other side. Whenever you join a game, the first window you are presented with is the character selection window, which I've closed. Before getting started with making our first 5e D&D character, let's take a quick tour around the desktop. The left side of the screen is where your character portraits are displayed when you select a character. Below this is the chat window, which also doubles as a dice box. Still below that is the modifier stack and the default arrangements of your dice. Go ahead and pick up a d20 and roll it into the chat window. Fun, isn't it? If you like, pause this video and get the rolling out of your system so you can focus on the rest of it. Okay, so on the right side of the desktop, at the very top is a collection of campaign tools. These include the combat tracker, the party sheet, the tables, calendar, color, options, modifiers, and effects. Below that are the campaign data buttons, of which you will only use PC, which is the character selection window, Notes, which is an area you can create your own notes that are then shareable with others if desired, and the library to load modules that the DM has available. Below that is the dice tower, which allows you to roll dice that only the DM can see, and the token box, which allows you to choose tokens that the DM has made available to his players. Across the very bottom of the desktop are 12 hotkeys, activated by clicking or pressing F1 through F12. If you hold Control, Shift, Alt, you get another dozen hotkeys, as well as Control Shift, Control Alt, Shift Alt, and Control Shift Alt. Grand total, that's 96 macros, effects, and modifiers that you can set hotkeys for. So our quick tour of the desktop is over. Now the first thing we want to do as a player is create a character sheet. So I'm going to click on PC to bring up the character selection screen, and then I'm going to click this plus sign to add a new character. You'll see a portrait appears up here. All active characters will generate a portrait up here for each connected player. You can have more than one portrait, in which case you just click on the portrait that you want to be the active speaking character. So by left clicking on the portrait, I bring up my character sheet, and what we're going to do now is go ahead and fill this thing out. The first character I'm going to make is a dwarf fighter. I'm going to just jump right in and fill it out. This is really just treat it just like you're filling out a paper character sheet. So the first thing I'm going to do is my character portrait right here. basically any portraits that are available. There's a folder. If you click this button, it brings up the folder they're in. Choose whatever portrait you want. I'm going to double click on the little dwarf picture, and you notice it generates a token based on that portrait right away. But I want to actually use a custom token that I've already built with token tool, and I got that right there, and I drop it down, so now I've got that token will be used on the sheet. The name is just a label. This is Arboreous Oakenshield. And then my class and level is on the next line. Notice the little magnifying glass. Anytime you see that, that means there's an extra window where that field is generated from. So for class, I'm just going to click down here, and I'm going to choose Fighter. I'm level 1, and my hit die is a D10, which I'll just drop in there. It's good to go. XP for next level is 300. So when I close that, you can see now it says Fighter 1. Background is Soldier. Race is a Mountain Dwarf. My stats are 17. I just used a standard array. 13, 8. And he has dark vision, 60 feet. This is just a label. You'll notice passive perception is calculated. No special move, no special defenses. You see my AC, int, and speed all have little fields here. The little plus sign means they're calculated. So I'm going to click my little thing here, and it shows my init. I don't have any modifier. My speed is base 25. My armor, I'm going to have chainmail will give me 6. My shield will give me 2. I do not get a dex bonus. And I also have a +1 because I have the defense feature as fighter. I'm proficient, and I have a stealth disadvantage when trying to use stealth. So go ahead and hit close, and you'll see it set my AC to 19 correctly. If my armor class should change, then I would just adjust it there. Then at the very bottom, I just need to set my max hit points. I have +3 con and a 10 for my hit die, so 13 hit points. My hit dice are right here. By double clicking, it'll actually roll and apply the healing. I can also click this magnifying glass to adjust how it calculates what I get. And then death saves are right here. You'll notice there's a little D20 there. You'll notice my saves all have D20s. Oh, by the way, so my saving throws should be strength and constitution. By clicking the little star, it makes me proficient, and you'll notice it modified that automatically. Anytime you see a die like that, that means that it's a rollable field. So it's a dice field. So I can either drag and roll. I can double click and roll it. I could also drag it to the hotkeys, and I could use F1 to roll it, or drag it from there. Woo, a 20. Anytime you see a D20 like that, that's how it works. You can also make a strength check into the dice tower here, and it would show that I made a strength check, but only the DM will see the result. So I'm done with my first tab. Now let's go on to my skills. So my skills tab is pretty straightforward, probably the easiest tab there is. All these skills from D&D are on it. You can add new skills by clicking this edit list and then adding one if you wanted to have a custom skill. But all I'm going to do, you can see the totals are already calculated and they all have the little shield. All I'm going to do is check the ones I'm proficient in. So the first click makes me proficient. A second click gives you double proficient for like a rogue. One more click makes you half proficient, and then it goes back to not. So I'm proficient in athletics, intimidation, perception, and survival. And you notice it modified all those skills by adding my +2 proficiency bonus. Okay, that's it for my skills. Now for the abilities tab. So now we'll put in the abilities. These are pretty straightforward. I start by clicking edit list, which allows me to add entries for each of these. I'm just going to put one on each, because then I can just hit enter to add new ones. So for my feats, well, actually, you know what? I don't have any feats yet. I'm still 0. Features is where I always put class things. So let's see, at level 1, I've got fighting style, and I chose defense. I've got, I also put my background here. So military rank is my background bonus. And then I have second wind, which I'll just put, I can do this once per rest as a reminder. Okay, my traits are racial things. So here's what I put here. So dwarven armor training, dwarven combat training, dwarven resilience. I want to actually remember what that does. That's advantage versus poison and resistance to poison, just so I don't forget what it does. Stone cunning, that might apply later. So 2 times proficiency bonus for history checks regarding stonework. Okay, that's stonework history. Okay. And tool proficiency for being a dwarf. And we'll say smith tools for this one. And that's it. So we're ready for proficiencies. I have armor is, let's see, all armor and shields. Tool, let's see, 3 dragon anti set and vehicles land. That was from soldier. And then weapons, I have simple weapons and martial weapons for my proficiencies. Again, just like I'm filling out a character sheet. Languages, I speak Common and I speak Dwarvish. Okay, let's go ahead and minimize that or close that so I stop editing. And that's it. I got all my features put in. Now, you'll notice there's these little shields on the side. This means that if I click one, it brings up a box that I could like type in text. So especially if I wanted to like put notes or something to remember. This is especially cool if you do have a library module. Then you can just, like, I have a library module that has all the feats in it that I've built myself. I could just drag it in and drop it and it would populate this text here. It's not really required. Putting it there is the same effort it would take to write it on your character sheet in real life. So, you know, do what you want with that. So I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and do my inventory now. Okay, equipment. Again, I'm just going to edit my list down here and add one. And so let's see. The first thing I've got is I've got a battle axe, which you can store location and stuff like that. I'm not going to bother. It weighs 4. I also have chainmail, which weighs 55. I've got hand axe, and I've actually got, let's see, that weighs 2, and I've got 2 of them. And you'll notice it's keeping track of my encumbrance. I've got a shield, which weighs 6 pounds. And then I have a Dungeoneer's pack, which weighs 35 pounds. Okay, so there's all that. Go ahead and minimize that. I can also put my treasure. You can fill in whatever you want. I was going to put 25, and you can put whatever you want here. I'm going to put gold pieces for this. So it's not like a set field you drop those into. Now I'm looking here. You'll also see I've got little shields here. If you click on these little shields, it allows you to fill out this information. Again, these are really cool when you have a library module because you drag it in and it takes all that stuff. But I can fill all this out myself. So type, this is a weapon. Battle axe is under martial weapons, and you'll notice it already pre-filled. I can put the cost, the weight, any bonus, like if it's magic. I can say it does 1d8 slashing, etc. Now, I'm not going to really bother filling it all out, but it just allows you to have a neat reference so you can link items to other people, and then they can see it as well. So I'm done with equipment. Let's move on to our notes page. So the notes page is pretty straightforward. Pretty much everything on here is just a text field. It's not something that's just like a mechanical effect in Fantasy Grounds. You just fill this out. Male, you don't even know how old he is yet. 4 foot 7 inches, 210 pounds. Size is medium. Alignment is lawful neutral. No faction yet. So deity, personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws. So all that can be filled out. I just want to go ahead and keep moving. So let's go into our actions. Okay, so now we are into the meat and potatoes of the character sheet, the actions tab. So right off the bat, you'll notice there's weapons across the top. I'm going to click the magnifying glass here and show. This is where you can adjust what your crit range is. You can also adjust if you get any extra crit dice when you crit. I'm going to go edit list, and I'm going to add an attack for, a weapon for my battle axe, another one for a hand axe, and then one more. I'm sorry, it is a battle axe, and then one more for a ranged hand axe because that way one's got ammo I can check off on it. So you'll notice there's a little melee thing here. If you click it again, it goes to ranged. Click it one more, it goes to thrown. So it knows which stat to use by default. So let's go ahead and fill these out. I have a battle axe, which is melee, and right now it's doing d20 plus 5 because it's assuming it's strength since it's melee. I will then click on this here to fill it out, and this is versatile, 1d10 if used two-handed. It uses my base stat, which will be strength, and then the damage it does is d6 plus base stat for strength, and the damage type is slashing. which is important to put in there. So close that, and you'll see it's going to do D20 plus 5 and D8 plus 3 slashing. So if I double click, it rolls. You can see I've already done it a couple times here. If I drag and drop, it rolls. I can also stick it on my toolbar and roll, and get my different rolls. I can do the same for the damage. And so it's 4, and it has a type of slashing. If I attack someone who has a resist to slashing or immunity, it will modify the damage automatically, which is very nice. So let's go ahead and add my other two things here. I will have a hand axe, and it's going to be melee as well. And let's click here, hand axe properties. It is light and thrown, range 2060. And then, let's see, base, that's great. The damage die is a D6, and it does base, bonus, and it's slashing. Close that. And then I want one more hand axe. And this one, I'm going to click until it says thrown. I have 2 of them, so I can click ammo. And you'll see there's my D20 plus 5 again, because it's using strength since it's thrown. And then the properties for this are still the same, so light, thrown, range 2060, base stat does 1d6, and it is slashing damage. Okay, close that. Now, something cool about the ranged hand axe, if I double click it, you'll notice it checks off one of my ammo. So that's pretty handy, especially for arrow users where you've got a big box. Every time you roll your attack, it checks one off for you. So there's all of my attacks. I'm ready to go. And I could right here hotkey all of these, and then I wouldn't even have to have this tab on the character sheet open. But what I also want to do is I've got a couple abilities that I would like to add here, 2 actually. So if you look at my abilities, the first one was Second Wind, which I can do once per rest, and that's pretty handy. So these powers and effects is where it really gets nice, because it's very easy to build a whole new macro. So I need 2 powers. The first one will be Second Wind, and this is a feature of my class. So you notice it gets its own category. And the other one I want is Dwarven Resilience, because I have resistance to poison damage all the time. And that is a trait from my race. So let's do the Second Wind one first. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to say Add Action. And the action I want is a heal. And then it brings up a heal, and I click my thing to target it. It targets me only. It heals hit points. And how much does it heal? It heals 1d10. And then if I cycle through the stats, one of them is plus my level. All set to go. So I click that. And now my heal is all ready to go. For the Dwarven Resilience, I will add an action, and I will add an effect. And the effect is resist poison. Now the syntax here is important. There is on the Fantasy Grounds wiki for the 5e rule set, there's a whole list, just a table that has all the different conditions you can put in and all the different modifiers you can have. This has no duration. It's effective all the time. It doesn't target anyone. It targets me only, and it doesn't expire. So I go ahead and close that, and now I'm all set to go. Whenever my character's on a combat tracker, if I click this effect, I just have to do it one time. It adds resist poison to my character, and then that's it. I've got it on all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize those two so they don't show. And then if I change the display, I can have it show a summary. And here's how a summary works. Whatever's in the right here will be my summary. So I could have, if I wanted, short descriptions. Again, you see the little shields. You could completely fill out the spell. You can put all the text in right here for the description. If it sees keywords it recognizes, like heal for 1d10, when you right click and choose reparse spell actions, a lot of times it'll actually build the effect for you. But in this case, we're not using a library module, so I'm just making the effect myself. But there's another option, and it's actions. So that way it just shows me Second Wind, and here's the actions associated. In my mode, I've got standard mode, where it shows you everything you've got and how many times it's ready. The little star means like at will. If I set preparation, I can set what spell slots I can have. I can set like Second Wind is used once per rest. So that's all set. Dwarven Resilience is on all the time, so I don't need to worry about it. And then when you go to combat, it will actually show what's available. Now notice, if I check Second Wind, it disappears to show me it's not available anymore. Now in standard, it's still there. So combat only shows you what you can currently use, whereas standard just shows you how many times it's prepared. So I like to leave it typically on standard for the mode. That way it doesn't hide things that I still want to be able to use in actions. But this way, whenever I click this, it rolls a, woo, that was pretty terrible. So it did a heal for 2, and it pointed out that I'm not wounded, so it didn't actually heal me at all. But that is an entire character sheet ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and make 3 more characters real fast, and then I just want to review some of the special notes on their pages. And now I have 3 additional characters made. So let's go ahead and start looking through these real quick. We're going to start with Limry Leapfoot, who is a female halfling rogue, stout. I've got her stats put in, all of her stuff. Her armor class is 1 from her armor. She has a full dex bonus, proficient, no stealth disadvantage. Hit points are in. There's her proficiencies for her saves. Skills are pretty basic. You'll notice that stealth and acrobatics, she has expertise in those, so she has double proficiency checked, and it adds it automatically. For her abilities, I just threw everything in. Put some notes on the ones I want to make sure I remember what they do. 2 of these actually are worth powers, like sneak attack I want a power for, and probably the stout resilience, because that resistance to poison. Something that's on all the time. There's her inventory. She dual wields short swords and wears leather armor. And then on her actions, I've got her dagger, both melee and thrown built. Pretty straightforward. I've got 2 ammo for the thrown. Her short swords, I built 1, and you'll notice it's +5 attack even though it's melee. That's because I changed the stat to be dex for the attack and dex for the damage instead of base, because base would be strength. And then I also made an additional short sword that I called offhand. And if you check here, it's the same thing, except I left the stat blank so that it doesn't add her dex bonus to the offhand attack, which it shouldn't. She has 2 powers. Sneak attack, which if you open this up, I'll show the exact breakdown. It's damage, 1d6. It doesn't have a duration. It targets herself, so if she applies it, it sticks it on her, and it will expend on her next roll, which means her next damage roll. And then the power will go away. So basically, when she lands a sneak attack, she just needs to click it, then roll her damage. It'll automatically add the d6 and pull the effect off so it doesn't happen again. Stout resilience is actually set up just like the dwarfs. It is resist poison, so any poison damage will be halved. Doesn't have a duration, targets self, and it never drops off unless like the DM clears effects off. So there you go. That is all of Limry's setup. So the next character is a little more complicated. This is Tara Watson. Tara is a human outlander cleric. See all of her stats, normal vision, pretty good passive perception. Her armor class is 6 from chainmail, no dex bonus, stealth disadvantage proficient. Now notice she has a -1 to her dex, but because dex does not apply, it doesn't apply positive or negative, which is kind of nice that it's intelligent enough to pick that up. Saving throws, got her proficiencies, hit points. There's her skills, pretty straightforward. She's got quite a few abilities. One thing I like to do when I do spell casting is I like to put prepare 4 per day plus domain. I like to note how many spells they can prepare so that I've got it as a reminder. She took the feat Warcaster, shows she has advantage on concentration checks, and she can use a spell for opportunity attacks. One quick thing we'll show right now. With the modifier stack, if you need to roll something with advantage for like a constitution save or saving throw, if you just click advantage and then roll your constitution, it actually rolls 2 dice and picks the highest one for you. Same for disadvantage, except do negative. You can also choose +2, +5, -2, -5 for just quick modifiers. You can also click in the modifier window and actually set a variable so to whatever you want, and then that will be a modifier on there. You can also use /mod -2 because DM said so, and you can drag this down here, and then when you click it, it adds that modifier and even says that's the reason, so that if I was to roll a d20, it will say because DM said so. So that's one way to do it. You can also use /die, pretty much all the nomenclature. Just check the user guide for more information about those. All right, so moving on, we have the inventory is holy symbol, chainmail, blah, blah, blah. She's using a maul instead of a weapon and shield. And her actions. So Maul and Spear, again, nothing special about those. She has spells now. So the first thing I did was I went to preparation mode, and I said she has 2 spell slots. And I also, on the spells cantrips, I checked this button, and it let me say that these are spells. Her base ability is Wisdom, set her base attack and saves, and I also can put she has 4 prepared spells. It's not enforced, but it's just a reminder for you. So then, on preparation, that's also when I can check what spells are actually prepared. Now, because she's a cleric, she has everything that is on her list is prepared right now. So I did put a war note after Shield of Faith and Divine Favor to remind me that those are those are her domain spells. So I'm going to leave this on combat. So guidance has an effect on the next ability. On when they make an ability check, they add D4, and it expires after the next roll or 1 minute. And you can see this is how you set that up. So check 1d4, duration 1 minute. It can be targeted on anyone, and it expires on your next roll. So if that happens before the duration's up. Okay. On Sacred Flame, this one I had to add 2 things. First, I went to add action, and I added a cast, and then I added a damage. So the cast will be a toggle. Either it's a ranged attack, in which case you'll choose what type, or it's a saving throw, and you choose what type. So this is a dex saving throw versus the group DC. Group means this category here. So I said Wisdom. So it automatically makes it save dex of DC of 13. This is really handy because whenever you drag a saving throw onto a monster or onto a target, it will force a saving throw automatically. So you don't have to wait for them to roll. Especially, it's really handy for the DM where he doesn't want to really go through and dig up saving throws. But when you drag it on a monster, it automatically saves. And then I also added a damage one, which is really straightforward. D8 die, and it does radiant damage. Okay, Spare the Dying, I didn't add any effects. That's really just remember what it does. Bless has a pretty cool effect. Let's open it up here. If for attack rolls, add 1d4. For saving throws, add 1d4. It lasts for 1 minute. It can be targeted on other people, and it never expires besides the duration, which means every round it keeps applying. It won't expire. The expend is like on a roll or on your next action, stuff like that. You can make it go away, so it's a one-time benefit. That one's great. Cure Wounds, I just added an effect for heal, and it's 1d8 plus 3, which it's pretty straightforward. You can make it targeted or self. You can also make it hit points or temp hit points. Temp hit points function correctly, like they only refresh or like use the higher value. They don't stack. Divine Favor, which is a war domain. This is actually a paladin spell, but it adds a damage effect of 1d4 radiant to your weapon. So basically to your attack rolls. It lasts for 1 minute, and it can be targeted on other people. It doesn't expire with each roll, just the duration. Guiding Bolt. This is the other side of adding a cast. So I added a cast to it, but I chose ranged instead of choosing a saving throw, and it still uses the group attack bonus, and that gave it a range plus 5, which is what it should be. And then I added a damage effect for 46 radiant. Healing Word, just added another heal. This one's D4 plus 3. Healing Word's a bonus action, so you can use it and still attack. And Shield of Faith, which is war. And this one, the effect that I put is Armor Class plus 2, and it lasts for 10 minutes. And it doesn't expire. It can be targeted on other people. So that's all of her spell setups. In a little bit, I'll actually show how to use a lot of these effects and how they apply once we bring in the combat tracker and show a map. But let's go ahead and move on to Davian, probably the most complicated of these characters. Okay, so Davian, let's double click him real quick, and as you can see, let's jump back here. He is a high elf wizard sage. There's his stats. Everything looks good. If you look at his armor class, he has no armor, but he gets his full dex bonus, so it calculates him as having a 13 armor class. He has his saving throws here. You'll notice his proficiencies. There's his skills. He's got quite a few of them. His abilities, got quite a bit. Arcane Recovery, I just mentioned 1 slot per level each day. Spellcasting, prepare 4 times per day. Elf Weapon Training, just jot in what he got from it. Advantage versus Charm, Immune Magic Sleep. Basically all my stuff, a lot of languages. His inventory, pretty straightforward. Dagger, his Arcane Focus, Scholar's Pack, and a spell book. And then we jump down to his actions. So I have Dagger and Thrown Dagger, since they are his melee weapon, just in case. Again, on his Preparation tab, I put in 2 spell slots. I put in his cantrips, which Fireball was just a cast and a damage. Light was a cast because it can generate a saving throw if you're trying to target something that's a creature is unwilling is holding. Mage Hand, Minor Illusion are both more, look them up in the book. This is where library modules are cool. If you have, all the spells parsed, you can drop them in and it populates all that text for you. You can also open it up and populate it yourself. As you can see, I dropped it in and I've already populated it. Then you have his spells for first level. And so these are all the spells in the spell book. Charm Person, Color Spray, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, Shield, Sleep. And each of these I'm just going to glance at. So I added the effect, Charmed, last 1 hour. I added a cast for Saving Throw versus Wisdom. Color Spray, added an effect for Blinded. Mage Armor, I added an effect for Armor Class 3, last 8 hours. For Magic Missile, I added 1d4 plus 1 force damage, and then you just click the damage each time it's supposed to apply. For Shield, I added plus 5 armor class to self, and it lasts for 1 round, so it will continue till the end of the round, or to start your next turn. And then Sleep, I added the unconscious effect. So like Color Spray and Sleep both affect a certain amount of dice. Those, you just need to look it up and roll those dice, and then the DM will tell you what you affect, and then you can apply those effects. Now on here preparation, I only have 4 prepared, and you can see you've got a reminder here. Notice I set it to intellect, is the intelligence is his spell. But I've checked the 4 he has available, and then when I go to combat, it only shows those. Very handy for a mage where you might get a lot. You can also collapse these columns to save room because, it's a wizard. You're going to have a lot of spells before you're all done. So that is everything on Davian. So let's go ahead and start putting this all together from the player side. Okay, so I've kind of got everything set up now. I want to give a whole demonstration of really how this all gets put together. So first I want to get all these character sheets open. I'm just double clicking on each one. And something I want you to notice is as I change to each character sheet, their dice color changes in the little dot. That's their pointers. I've gone, each character has its own separate color setting. So I found like this one, I said I wanted it red, and then I just darkened it a little bit till I found the shade of red I wanted. And then you can also toggle between white and black text. And I close that. But then when I go to Tara, it changes her dice color. You'll also notice their hotkeys change. So on Limri, I have hotkeyed short sword attack, damage for short sword, offhand damage, the effect for sneak attack, and the effect for resist poison. That way it's ready to go. So let's go ahead and bring up the combat tracker. You can see I've already got some 3 goblins added to this combat tracker. But I'm going to go ahead and roll initiative on my hotkey here, and you see it gives a 22, and it auto-populates it on the DM screen so that I don't have to touch it. So let's switch over to Tara. Tara's going to go ahead and roll initiative real quick, and gets a 12. You can see it's ordering them automatically. She has her maul damage, her Sacred Flame cast, and her Sacred Flame damage, as well as Bless. I went ahead and put out here because I figure she'll probably be using it a lot. Then I have Davian, another dice color. I have Firebolt cast, Firebolt damage, and Magic Missile damage. Those are things he's going to use a lot. And then I also have his Mage Armor, so that whenever he throws that up, he can get that bonus on real quick. Let's roll his initiative. Ooh, not great. So he's at a 7. And then finally, I have Arboreus. And Arboreus, 1 more dice color. I have his battle axe attack, his battle axe damage, and his second wind heal. I also have his resist poison effect, which you'll see is not applied right now. So I'll click it, and now he has resist poison applied. And then he'll roll for initiative. And now he got a 16. So I've got all of their initiatives done. So on the DM screen, I've got a map already set up. So I'm going to share that map, which is a little large. So a player can go ahead and rearrange the map wherever he wants it. I'm going to kind of aim for about here, and then I'm just going to cover up those sections because I don't really need them right now, but I do want to leave my dice tower showing. So that way I've got my map. Now a player can look around and view the map however he wants, unless the DM is locking it out to where you're not allowed to look around, in which case anything outside of the view the DM sharing will be masked. In this case, on the DM screen, I'm not locking it. You can look around the map if you want to. So this way, each individual player can kind of adjust the map to the size he wants, because the DM might have a different size screen than you. And some players don't really want as big a map. So there's all my setup. I got all my guys ready to go. And then the DM on his screen will go to initiative and roll NPC initiative. He currently has it set to roll for initiative in groups. Another option is the DM can hide those so that the players won't see it until their initiative order comes up. So he can still make the token visible, but the players will not see them in the initiative tracker. But for this, I'm just going to have them showing. So we're ready to get started. So for each screen, I'm going to go ahead and just clear the chat log. That way you can keep track of what's happening with each character. So to start things off, the DM goes ahead and sets it to Limmery Leapfoot's turn. And as you can see, it popped up. It says it's Limmery Leapfoot's turn. It shows that he currently has the effect resist poison condition on, or effect on him, which is something the DM can toggle if that shows. So on Limmery's turn, Limmery, being the short sword expert, is going to run over to this goblin. And you can see how it's creating a path for his movement. That is because the GM currently has tokens locked. So as a player, you show where you're proposing to move, and then the DM with a middle click can approve it, and your token automatically moves over there. So now, Limmery wants to attack this goblin right here. So there's a couple different ways that you can target. The first one, and probably the easiest, is to hold Control and click on your target, and it targets it. You'll also notice up here in the combat tracker, it says Target Goblin 5. Okay. Another option, just doing it again, will toggle it. You can actually target multiple targets, and you'll see it draws an arrow to whatever you have targeted. Another way you can do it, instead of targeting, is to take your attack roll and drag it and just drop it on what you want to attack on their token, or on the same thing on the combat tracker. In both cases, it will cause the attack to target them and auto-resolve. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do both ways. So first, I'll go ahead and target the goblin, and I'm going to roll his... oh, whoops, sorry. Let's get on Limmery's sheet here. There we go. I'm going to do Limmery's short sword attack using a macro. So I roll. It gets a 10, which it compares to the goblin's armor class right away and says that's a miss. So then he goes ahead and makes his offhand attack. And I'm going to do the offhand attack by actually dragging it and dropping it onto the goblin. And got an 11, a 16, so that hits. Unfortunately, Limmery does not get sneak attack damage since he went first. So I'm just going to roll the damage for the offhand short sword. And I'm already targeting the goblin, so I can just drag it and roll. And I get a 6 for my damage. Notice it didn't add any modifier. It auto-applied it and says the goblin is now dying. Now you'll notice these health categories: healthy, dying, healthy. I currently have it set to detailed, so it will use different words ranging from light to or healthy, lightly wounded, I think moderately wounded, heavily wounded, in critical condition, and then dying, based on like 25% increments. The DM can control how detailed it gets. I think by default it's like healthy, wounded, and heavily wounded, and but I have it set for detailed. I'm a little more descriptive in my game when I'm letting them know kind of how the monster is. So those two attacks finishes out Limmery's turn, and so then the player on your own turn, you can just hit turn complete, and it moves to the next player. Now you heard that ding. That was because the DM has it set to ring for the active player's turn whenever it becomes his turn. So it became Arboreus' turn. Since I'm controlling all the characters, I'll hear the ding every time. But it's just a nice little wake up to make sure that that person knows, hey, you're expected to do something. So I'm going to double click and switch over to Arboreus' character sheet. And instead of using his hotkeys, I'm going to actually do his using his character sheet, just to show that off. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And then the DM approves the move. One thing that's good for is if like you run over a trap, the DM can say, wait, and he can just move you to where you got to. The DM normally just moves tokens, but if a DM holds control down, I'll cover this with DMs too, the DM can create a path as well. That way players have a chance to say, no, before you get there, I interrupt him. So on Arboreus' turn, he moves up to this goblin, and I'm going to go ahead and control click to target that goblin. This Goblin 6 is my target. And on his actions, I'm going to take his battle axe, and I'm just going to double click it. So double clicks to the battle axe, gets an 18 hitting, and he rolls a d8 plus 3 for his slashing, gets 4, not enough to kill the goblin. Now you see, it doesn't show how much you did. It just says that the goblin is in critical condition. Oh, I'm sorry. On the DM screen, whenever something goes to dying, it pops up a real quick thing that makes it very easy for him to delete a token. So I just did that. The goblin is in critical condition, but not dead. So the next, that'll finish his turn off. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit next turn. And now it moves over to the Goblin's turn. And right now it is Goblin 1's turn. You might notice too, it says Goblin 1 and Goblin 6. That's because I currently have it auto numbers same name NPCs as I drag them into the combat tracker, but it also puts a random number. So you know, like if you can't see them all, you don't know how many there actually are. For this goblin, I'm going to move down one and then over to the dwarf. That gives everyone an opportunity to say, I want to interrupt. Nobody does, so the DM goes ahead and finishes the move. And then the goblin is going to attack Arboreus. So he makes a scimitar attack and gets a 21. Now you'll notice on the DM screen I see the breakdown of the roll, but because I have my rolls hidden but not the results, the players just see attack 21 hit. So then I'm going to go ahead and apply his damage, which is 1d6 plus 2 slashing. It only does 3 damage, the wound category is light, but on Arboreus, because players are allowed to see it, you can just see he's taken 3 damage. So that ends that goblin's turn. So then I hit next turn, and now it is Goblin 6's turn. Goblin 6 doesn't need to even move, so he will target Arboreus Oakenshield, and he's going to attack with a scimitar as well, also hitting, and then he will roll his damage. Ooh, little better. So he did 7. So now Arboreus has taken 10 wounds and is in a critical condition, meaning he's below 25%. And that finishes his turn. So now it dings to let me know that it's Tara's turn. Clear that real quick. Okay, so for Tara's turn, Tara needs to get some hurt on. Let's go ahead and change to her sheet. The first thing Tara's going to do, though, is Healing Word, because it doesn't, it's a bonus action, so she can still make an attack afterwards. So she will go ahead and check off that Healing Word, and we're going to drag that, and she will drop it onto Arboreus, and he will receive 6 points of healing, and you see it automatically applied it. So that's done. All I have to do is check off the spell slot. Then Tara says, I want to move to here, and the DM says, no problem. And then Tara is going to make an attack roll on that goblin. So she targets the goblin, and then she'll just roll her maul here, and she gets a 15, which is a hit, and then she rolls the damage for her maul, which is a 7, 9, automatically sends the goblin into dying. So we'll go ahead and clear that out. And so that finishes off Tara's turn. Go ahead and hit next, and now it's Davian's. So let's go ahead and clear that. And so Davian is ready to do his attack now. Let's switch to him. And for Davian, he's got all kinds of different stuff he can do here. One thing I was wanting to show is if you wanted to cast Sleep, so there are pointers in this game. So it's Davian's turn. If I hold both mouse buttons down, yeah, both buttons on my mouse down, left and right, and drag, it draws an arrow on the screen. If I click them by themselves without dragging them, it gets rid of that. That's how you do a quick pointer. If you're holding control when you do that, it draws a circle. And you can set, like this is a 5-foot radius circle. Well, say I have something that has a 20-foot radius. If I hold control and drag till I say 20, now I can move this around and it'll color what squares are affected by that. So I could say, you know, how many people would be caught in a 20-foot blast? Well, there you go. That's how many would be caught, 40 feet across. If you hold Shift, it draws a square. And if you hold Alt, it draws a cone. So those are all really handy. Now you can also, you can go to pointers, and you can actually say, I want to draw a circle. And then that means you can still draw a quick one. So if you right click and draw a pointer, it's permanent until you get rid of it. If you left click and draw a pointer, then let me see, remove this pointer. There you go. If you left click, or I mean, if you use the quick select to draw a pointer, then it will be replaced by a new quick select. But this is an easy way for a player to say, hey, what is that? Or, you know, etc. Or they can say, a lot of times when I'm doing maps and we're exploring an overland map, I would say, okay, your characters are in this city right here. That way it's really easy for them to tell where I'm talking about. So your dice color is always what color your pointers are. So that's something handy to know. So this Davian here is, we're not going to sweat this too much. He's just going to chuck a firebolt at the goblin to finish him off. The goblin does have cover where he's at now. So the mage will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll say, whoops. Then the DM will approve the move, and he slides over there. And then he's going to target the goblin, and he's going to roll his firebolt attack, which he gets a 18, which hits, and then he rolls the damage for his firebolt, which is a d10, and that's enough to kill the goblin. So the DM deletes the goblin off the screen. And so before I close this down, let me jump over to Terra real quick, and I want to show guidance. So Terra puts guidance on Davian, and you can see it has a duration of 10 rounds. So it'll be until his next check, he gets that d4, or if the DM at the end of the combat says clear expiring effects, it'll drop that one off, but it won't get rid of the permanent effects for resist poison. So that's really handy. Really, the only time they need to be put on is if your character's first being added to the combat tracker. That's a pretty good rundown of how the combat and using fantasy guns looks from the player perspective. One of the just final wrap-up features I want to show here is the party window, which is this party sheet here. Let me set to the main tab, which just gives you a really nice summary of the whole party. The DM's party summary is even more detailed, and it's really nice as a DM to be able to just take it at a glance and see all the stats of all the players, even have a visual representation of hit points and remaining hit dice. The DM can control if you can see other players' inventory, but even here, if the DM drags and drops in a treasure parcel, the characters can take the items from there and drag them onto their character sheets instead of it having to be micromanaged by the DM. You got a place you can set your watch order just for camping, and then this little area here, people can draw on it. By the way, drawing, you just click draw, and you're like, woo, look at that, I'm drawing. And then you can choose an eraser, which will do freehand unless you hold shift, in which case it does, I'm really terrible with the straight edge part. It does straight lines, but I'm really bad there. So you have to pick shift up and put it back down again. And like so, you can draw that way. Pretty cool. Pointers and stuff all work here as well. But the DM can put tokens on this map, and a lot of times for like when you're camping, you might just have everybody on here. This is also a good place to put your marching order. Like, the DM wants to know what's the default marching order for your party, and this is a spot that he can put it. So let me show that. I want to add them like this. That way they're coming from the combat tracker. Okay, and then this way each of the players can set, and you notice the DM does not have tokens locked here. So you could set up here and say that's our normal marching order, front rank, back rank. And then the other thing I wanted to show is just some of the effects that we built here and exactly how they look when actually applied. So like we didn't get to do Limeri's sneak attack. So let's go ahead and add sneak attack to Limeri and then roll her damage. You see that it added an extra d6 in there. That was really nice. Let's do Terra. We saw that. We saw the first. We saw the heal, but let's put guidance on Limeri, and then on Limeri's sheet we will roll stealth. Doink, and you can see it added a d2. Wow, so that was really good. 31 for a first level character. That's pretty impressive. And you notice it stripped that effect off right away. Some of the other ones like bless. If we put bless on. Let's put this one on Arboreus, and then we'll go to Arboreus' sheet, and he will do an attack, which it adds the extra roll. When he rolls his damage, though, it doesn't do anything extra. But if we go to main and roll one of his saving throws, like a dexterity save, whoops, click on dexterity save, you can see it rolled the extra d4. And that will stay until expiring effects are cleared, or until that duration ends. Like, let me go ahead and roll a couple of rounds here. Okay, so you can see it's now round 5, and the duration has been counting down. That dinging was because I have player notification turned on, obviously. Let's see what else Terra has to show off here. Guiding bolt, we kind of saw that. Well, no, we didn't do a guiding bolt. Let's take and let's get a goblin back here. Oh, I'm sorry. Players cannot see that. Goblin tracker done. View. Okay, so now we got a goblin that we can try and beat up on. So it's Terra's turn. So on Terra, let's move to her turn. Oh, sorry, DM. her turn. Now, you don't have to target down here. You can also target by clicking on the icon that you want to target in the combat tracker. So I click on that, and then I'm going to do Guiding Bolt, and I'm going to drop it on the goblin. And it says, cast Guiding Bolt at goblin. Oh, that one's an attack. Okay, so that one missed. What's one that's a saving throw? We need a save. Sacred Flame is a saving throw. So let's drop Sacred Flame on that goblin. And you can see it forced the goblin to make a saving throw. And on the DM side, because I have rolls hidden, I can say if he made it or passed it. And in this case, I say, oh, he passed his saving throw. And as a DM, I can also drag and drop it, and it will, so I can reveal a roll if I want you to see what I got. So, pretty cool. I think that's enough of those. I guess we can add a Shield of Faith to someone, to Arboreus. And so Arboreus' armor class is now considered 18 instead of 16. I'm sorry, 21 instead of 19. We can tell by, let me grab this goblin and target Arboreus, and let's see what we can hit him with and what we can't. So we should be able, okay, that really missed. So there we go. There's a 19, which ended up as a 22. Darn it. Hold on. Let me get one that ends up as a 19. We're just going to roll a lot. Nope, 18 should have missed. 19. There we go. So a 19 should hit, but you'll see because of the defensive effects, it's actually considered a miss. So that's pretty awesome. And let's go to Davian, who's got all kinds of cool stuff. So for the goblin, first off, we can do a magic missile. Pop. Oh. Now, why didn't that work? It's because I forgot to target the goblin. So let's make it Davian's turn, and I will target the goblin. And now I will do magic missile. Pop. He gets hit. Magic missile again. Pop. He's dying. Let's look at death and dying effects. So I'm going to make it the goblin's turn. And the goblin is going to target Davian. And then I'm just going to start rolling damage so we can see what happens here. So first hit, 5 damage, critical condition. Second hit, oh, instant death. Okay, well that was fun. So if you are driven to negative hit points, it will do instant death. And so he's dead. In fact, you can see it automatically failed all of his saves. Let's try that on another target since he was kind of a wuss. How about we do Arboreus? So we'll do, sorry Davian, heavy damage, critical damage. Okay, there we go. So now Arboreus is dying. So let's look at his sheet. Shows him he's at 13 damage. So then the goblin attacks again. It automatically does a failed death save. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. And I can also have him actually roll his death save. So let's say he rolls there. There's another success. And, oh, he failed this one. And he failed another one. Oh, which one's it going to be? Success. And he's now stable. So it'll stop checking him now. He's no longer considered dying. So we're going to remove all of these, and I want to show just how awesome this is. I'm going to pull up my modifiers here so that I can force the next damage roll to be critical. Oh, whoops, not on here. I need to do it on the DM sheet. So I'm going to force the next damage roll to be a critical, and I'm going to roll that damage. And you can see it automatically applies 2 failed death saves because of a crit. So death and dying is tracked automatically. It's pretty cool. Now you can turn off auto death saves because that's something to see here. Let me make it Limeri's turn, and then we'll push the next turn. It automatically rolls the death and dying save for Arboreus, and you can see that it succeeded. So you can turn that off if the players want to roll it themselves, but yeah, death and dying is pretty awesome too. So I think that covers just about everything. I think anyone watching this should be ready to jump in and play 5th edition now. Stay tuned for the next video, which will cover hosting and running a game from the DM's perspective, and it'll be focused a lot more on dealing with manipulating campaign data and using the combat tracker and the map tools. All right, thanks a lot, everyone.